Good morning and welcome to the Board of Supervisors meeting of May 6, 2008. If you're here for a court proceeding, you're in the wrong room. Go next door. Would you please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, is the absence of an announcement page meaning that there are none? There will be no announcements today. You'll be glad to know.
Wait a minute. That's impossible.
Wait a minute. That's close to a first. I'd like to move to the consent agenda. Oh, by the way, Supervisor Claudino will not be with us today. He is taking the day off. And we will now move to the consent calendar, which is items that are expected to be non-controversial, although they aren't always so. Anyone in the room can remove an item for further discussion. Any board members wish to remove an item?
I'd like to pull item 4.
Item 4. Any staff, members of the public would like to remove an item from consent? I'll entertain a motion on the balance.
Move for the balance.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes on a 4-0-1. Not here. Item 4, Russ.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, fellow supervisors, this item is something that I wanted to take care of personally. For the last going on 8 years, I guess, Janine White has been representing District 5 on the Fish and Game Commission, and I would like for Janine to come up and let me read this plaque and the resolution for her. Janine has been a good friend since coming to Calvert County and has served very admirably on the Fish and Game Commission. She's the most skilled note taker I've ever seen and keeper of the minutes, and I'd just like to read this resolution. Okay, the Board of Supervisors of Calvert County, State of California, a resolution recognizing Janine White. Whereas the California County Board of Supervisors and fellow commission members wish to thank Janine White as the District 5 representative to the Calaveras County Fish and Game Commission, and whereas Janine served as recording secretary on the Calaveras Fish and Game Commission from 2003 until 2008, and whereas Janine always exhibited a great sense of humor, even occasionally telling the commissioners they were wrong, a bright spot at the meetings, and whereas Janine was always there to lend a helping hand whenever needed and could be counted on to get things done. She never said no and always there to pitch in. And whereas Janine could always be counted on to keep the agenda items on track and for accurate minute taking and reporting, Janine took a common sense approach to fish and game issues in Calaveras County. And whereas Janine's dedication to the Fish and Game Commission's goals have been very much appreciated. She will be missed, and now, therefore, it be resolved that Janine White be commended for her exemplary service to the Calaveras County Fish and Game Commission and the County of Calaveras. Okay, with that reading, I would move that we approve this resolution.
I'll be more than happy to second it, having worked with her.
There's a motion and an enthusiastic second. Those in favor? Aye. Opposed? It passes 4-0-1. Well done. We'll move into a recess until 9:10 for public comment at that time.
Did you read?
Okay, it's that much-awaited moment for time for public comment. Is there anybody who would like to make a comment this morning?
Thank you. I don't mind going first. My name's Bonnie Newman. I'm a healthcare provider here in Calaveras County, and I just want to take this opportunity on behalf of 200 healthcare workers who you probably never see, you probably never hear from, to thank you for approving our pay raise. Although our final negotiation contract has not been finalized, we've all been able to enjoy our pay raise for the past 2 months, and for that I thank you very, very much. Something about the healthcare workers that you never see and you never hear from. I would say 95% of us are stuck out in some far reaches of the county in somebody's home, virtually ingrained in our jobs. That's why most of the healthcare workers you'll never see or hear from, but we're out there doing a really important job, and I don't want to pump myself up too much, but some of the healthcare workers are virtual saints with the work that they do. The care that they provide the handicapped and the disabled is it's incredible. And I have 2 issues to discuss with you, but each one is going to take 5 minutes, so I'm going to come back next week. You're all warned. You can call in sick if you want, but I'll be back to talk to you again. But thank you so much. Everyone appreciates it. We're really heartened by it.
Well, we appreciate the contributions that home care workers make to this community. Essentially, what you're doing for very little remuneration is allowing people to live in dignity at their homes rather than be institutionalized. It's about as good an investment as we could make, both for the dignity of both providers and consumers of the service. And so, thank you very much.
I thank you. Thank you very much.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak under items from the public?
Good morning, Board. My name is Scott McTeer, county resident since 1993 in Wallace, and I'm here today to discuss, imagine that, some stuff about the health department as well. I won't take too long. I started writing this down last night and got a little veered off into another direction, but I am going to go ahead and read this at home. It's very short. Like I say, I'm here to alert you about a concern I have with the public health department, and we have lived in Calaveras County since 1993, and our 3 children have either graduated or soon to graduate from Calaveras High School. We couldn't be happier living here. We are successful, productive citizens and are admired by our neighbors, friends throughout the county. Just over a year ago, my wife Holly accepted a position with the public health department at the annex location and was very excited and happy. All this changed on April 25th, 2008, when she received a notice that her county employment was over for a reason I still cannot grasp, and I believe you yourself will not understand. Holly was hired to work for 75% for public health under one supervisor and 25% for health education under another supervisor. During Holly's early employment at the annex, she was asked to fill in at the main office for an employee that was ongoing away from work for personal reasons. Holly was happy to fill in, and she is a team player, will do almost anything anybody asks as long as it is not against the law or immoral. However, this kept her from her own work and the training she should be attending. Holly continued her positive work, traveling to immunization clinics from Copperopolis to West Point to Murphy's and above, adjusting her hours to coincide what was needed at the job site, and never complained. This is all leading up to her release from employment without a reasonable reason. As an employee who was at work every day, she was scheduled to be there, no absenteeism or tardiness, and a well-deserved and a well-educated, competent employee terminated because she is not a good fit. Almost 14 months of employment, and then they tell her she's not a good fit. She's not a pair of shoes. She's a human being that deserves something better than not a good fit. You could have told us anything. Hey, the budget. your tardiness, your work ethics, anything, you smell, I don't care, but not a good fit it just doesn't sit well with me, and I think you can understand that. During Holly's tenure over 1 year, she had also, with the participation from our children, friends, and their schoolmates, revitalized an almost non-existent program, revenue generating, called Friday Night Live. I could go on, but I believe you understand that the supervisors at the Public Health Department need training as personnel managers. They may be the best at the business end of it, but they have no idea what's going on as personnel-wise. There's a large turnover rate in that department, and you can see, I think in the last year, since my wife has been there or was there, 4 people have come and gone. My wife never made probation. 14 months. Come on, you know if somebody's a good employee prior to that. And then I would say, if you would check with the employees in that department, if they're willing to speak up without the threat of retaliation and termination themselves, they will tell you about my wife's job ethics. I appeal to you to reinstate my wife to the county health department as you've lost a model employee with only good intentions of providing a service to the county and a loving home to our family. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, sir. Sir, would it be possible for us to receive a copy of your letter?
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who wishes to address under items from the public?
Yeah, I'm Jerry Brock, and is it all right if I pass it up to the board?
Yes, through Madeline, our clerk.
I'm here to talk about R1 zoning at Poker Flat. As I don't know if most of you people have been there, but most of the streets there are one-way streets. There's no room for extra parking. Most of all the homes there have room for 2 cars and 2 cars only. The association parking lot is full already with boat trailers and motorhomes. Last summer, on one weekend, one of the rentals in our cul-de-sac had 25 to 30 people in a 3-bedroom home. Now, you think I'm exaggerating? I'm not. And you know, I know it's hard for you people to understand that because you don't live there. And sometimes you don't realize what's going on unless it's right beside you. They had 4 to 5 cars and pickups and trailers parked on our streets. The fire hydrant was blocked and we could not turn around in our cul-de-sac. If there'd been a fire, the fire trucks couldn't get in there to put the fire out. If you think I'm exaggerating, I got my phone number on those cards. You can come down to my house and I'll show you. These people party until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Now, excuse my French, but they raise all kinds of hell. They use the F word continuously, and I don't like for that crap to go on when my grandkids are there. And I don't think you would either. We called Steve Silver, the property manager for these properties. He would not answer the phone. He was home. We have to stay up just about all night to patrol our property so the renters will not use our docks and abuse our rights. And I'm not exaggerating about that. My neighbor's got a slide. They continue to get on his slide. And this is late at night. I am here on behalf of myself and my wife and some of the homeowners from Poker Flat to talk to you about R1 zoning at Poker Flat. When we purchased our property and home at Poker Flat 30 years ago, we were the 4th house there. It was zoned R1. The county's zoning code for R1 says this is single dwelling homes, the same as you have in your communities. Not a hotel zone for transit renters. It says you can rent your home for not less than 30 days. We've got a real problem there because more and more, Steve has more. Last year he had 7 rentals that he advertises on the internet. This year he has 15. A copy of that is in that brochure I gave you there. We have asked our association board to enforce the R1 zoning code. They say they cannot do this. They tell us the county is the only one that can enforce this. I went to the county planning department and I've talked to a couple of people there, and they tell me that they have not got the authority to enforce that code unless the Board of Supervisors tells them to enforce it. And that's why I'm here. We are asking you, the Board of Supervisors, to please do not change the R1 zoning code to Poker Flat, because there's a rumor that the planning department is going to try to appease the renters and the homeowners. Well, they're not going to appease me and a lot of other people. Please do not turn Poker Flat into a hotel zone. I don't think any of you on this board would want a hotel zone where you live. We live here, we own our homes here. We want you the board, to enforce R1 zoning code to protect our rights as citizens of Calaveras County. Now, you might think I'm exaggerating, but I'm not. There's a list of names there that agree with me, and we've got a real problem. Last year, we sent notices to the county that we had the problem. We heard nothing from the county. I realize that the county is very busy. They have a lot to do. But we've got a problem, and we needed the code enforced. We don't need it changed. Is there any comment?
Mr. Brock, the notices that you're talking about were formal code compliance complaint forms?
Yes, they were.
Okay.
I would ask, just on the one question to clarify, Mr. Selman, is there actually a process underway to review the zoning for that area?
Robert Selman, Planning Director. Actually, the answer is yes. This is an issue that we discovered has become not just this gentleman's problem. It is apparently broader, and the county just became aware that it has reached something of a county-wide issue, and it is the county staff's intention to bring this matter back to you to review exactly what the situation is and seek your guidance before we take any action one way or the other. And it's just a matter of our timing to get it to you as quickly as possible.
What format do you anticipate for that to be considered?
A study session, I would assume, as quickly as we can.
All right. Then, sir, if there is a study session to be had on this, it would be important for stakeholders, people who are concerned about it, to attend and let their feelings be known to the board and their position on the issue.
Now, you're saying that everybody at Poker Flat that's for this?
I would say everybody who has a concern about it should attend the study session so we can get full information and make sure that people are first informed and then have the opportunity to express themselves to the board on the topic.
Okay, how will we be informed when this meeting is going to be?
I believe that if you were to notify Mr. Selman of the interest of a group of parties, they would receive notification at that time.
Now, just a minute, Bob. Now, we're going to have to call you to find out when the meeting is?
Yeah, we can talk to Susan. Okay.
I need to get this.
All right.
We're going to take that because I only had 6 of them.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to address the board under items from the public?
My name is Don Lee. I'm secretary of the Gold Strike Heights Homeowners Association, and we have some members here that are going to convey to me their time. If they could identify themselves, because I think the subject...
Actually, what we have as a basic rule of thumb here is 5 minutes per person and 15 minutes per item.
That's correct. I'll confine it to 15 minutes, Mr. Chairman.
Well, actually, the way that the board has interpreted this over the years is that it's 5 minutes per person, and the two others could speak for 5 minutes each as well. If there's something you're reading, I suppose you could technically get that in by having other people take over from the 5-minute end of your speech.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make my presentation within the 5 minutes. When does that 5 minutes start?
Right now.
Thank you. Gold Strike Heights Association has been in substantial turmoil for several years and has recently been brought to a head when the developer finally abandoned the project and has left us in considerable disarray. There are members of the staff of the County of Calaveras that have embraced this developer. They embraced him, supported him, and lobbied for him. And that inappropriate conduct has been very damaging to us. I personally have a judgment for over $100,000 against the developer. The company that I work for and has an interest in that community has almost a $2 million investment. All those have been eviscerated and at great risk. On April 1st, this board, despite being warned not to, released bonds and caused a further damage of $272,000 to the association. At the present time, Westwind Development, which apparently has now abandoned the project, has failed on virtually all its important legal promises and has left in virtual financial collapse. The entire project is in foreclosure, and when I say the entire project, the second phase is in foreclosure, which also includes the land underlying the roads. We don't own the roads. A promised clubhouse is now not likely to be built. The county, catering to outside financial interests, released the road improvement bonds by resolution on April 1st and further damaged the association. You have an employee with the county, Stephanie Marino, who is engaged in inappropriate conduct for self-gain and against the interest of this community, and especially against the interest of the Gold Strike Heights Homeowners Association. A tort claim has been filed with the county, and throughout that claim you're going to see a term that's used over and over again, that term being betrayal. We have been betrayed. We have been betrayed by your staff members, and we have been betrayed by your planning commission, and now we've been betrayed by the Board of Supervisors. Either the Board of Supervisors was complicit in this betrayal, or you had the wool pulled over your eyes. It's one or the other. I'm not here to tell you we're going to attempt to hold you accountable. You can remove the word attempt from that scenario. We will hold you accountable for what you have done to us. Betrayal is a violation that produces moral and psychological conflict within a relationship amongst individuals, between organizations, and between individuals and organizations. Often betrayal is the act of supporting a rival group, and it is a complete break from previously decided upon and presumed norms by one party from the others. You had an obligation to exercise oversight and supervision under the Subdivision Map Act. You have completely failed in that. You have been given legal advice by your county council that is inappropriate and wrong. He has told you that we are not required to have a common meeting area in order to maintain an over 55 status under the UNRU Act, under California Civil Code 51.2 and 51.3. That advice is wrong. I don't know why he gave you that advice. Either he's complicit in this betrayal or he's incompetent. But he gave you bad advice. He gave you wrong advice. Stephanie Marino told you that the clubhouse didn't have to be built until the second phase. That's wrong. In the Planning Commission meeting, she sat in the back as part of a team with the developer. She came to one of our board meetings and lobbied on behalf of the developer. That's inappropriate conduct. You should launch an immediate investigation and terminate her. I think you'll cover up for her, but there's a political consequence. People are not going to tolerate this behavior. People in the county are not going to tolerate a cover-up, and that's what you're doing. Stephanie Marino has betrayed the public trust. She lied to the Planning Commission. She lied apparently to the Board of Supervisors, and you catered to outside financial interest in the form of Financial Pacific Insurance Company and released a bond in the middle of litigation over that bond. You took a part and a side in this lawsuit. At least you could have remained neutral. Instead, you became an active part in the lawsuit. We are suing the bonding company for nearly $600,000 so that we can get title to the roads and we can get our clubhouse built. You intervened in that.
Sir, we're close to done here. Is there further summary you'd like to use to complete your remarks?
I believe my comments are completed. You've laid down the gauntlet. We will not shrink from the challenge. Thank you.
Sir, a quick question. What was the name of your development? I didn't quite pick that up from you.
Gold Strike Heights
Gold Strike Heights. So that's
subdivision, right down off of Gold Strike Way.
That's
correct.
Here, right in San Andreas.
That's all laid out in a 14, 15-page tort claim. I'm not sure it's been, that was filed on Tuesday, submitted on Tuesday. I don't know if that's...
Okay.
Yeah, we haven't seen.
Well, if it's under litigation, we'll...
It's not under litigation, sir.
What?
A tort claim is not. It's a precursor to litigation. It's a precursor to litigation. You've already intervened in active litigation without any duty or obligation to do so. You've already intervened in litigation. That being our lawsuit to collect from the bonding company.
Okay. And I suspect we'll...
You've already catered to outside commercial financial interests to our detriment.
Yes, I regret that the supervisor from District 1 is not with us today, and actually this all comes as some news to us. So we will take what you say under advisement, and
this is a serious subject. We expect you to do the right thing. If you don't do the right thing, we will force you to do the right thing.
I think we got that from your earlier remarks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dare I ask, would anybody else like to address the Board of Supervisors under items from the public? Okay, that will be the final word today from that item. Item number 12, discussion possible action regarding the adoption of an ordinance adding Chapter 8.20 to Title 8 of the Calaveras County Code adopting the Calaveras County Well Ordinance.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Now, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Passes on a 4-0-1. We now move to item 13. This is a public hearing to review the availability of nonprofit agencies that are willing and able to conduct public paratransit services for Calaveras County. Nathan?
Good morning, Nathan Atherstone, Public Works. We have presented this item in request to hold a public hearing to review the availability of nonprofit agencies to provide public paratransit services for the elderly and disabled residents of the entire county of Calaveras. If there are no found public nonprofit agencies that are willing and able to provide that service, there is a subsequent resolution identifying that, which would allow the county to be eligible for federal grant funding assistance for various things, including procurement of new buses for the county.
Okay, thank you. We'll now open the public hearing. Is there anybody who wishes to speak under that item?
Marty Crane, Calaveras Volunteer Center. I think most of you already know that the Volunteer Center has been operable since 1991.
Speak into the mic, Marty, will you, please?
The Volunteer Center has been operable since about 1991, providing a safety net transportation door-to-door program for our vulnerable populations. We serve over 1,000 requests for assistance a year. We have two very part-time, officially very part-time employees, and we manage financially because we don't turn it all in, as do most of the volunteers throughout the county. They realize the issue, financial issue, so they don't request reimbursement for gas and mileage. However, I fear that in today's climate, that may change. It is starting to change, and I worry that we may see a mass exodus of our volunteer drivers because of the perceived inability to reimburse for mileage. I don't know what else that I can share with you, except that our vulnerable populations in the county, the reason the Volunteer Center exists is because there are no other services that are either available or adequate to meet their needs. If you cannot get to the bus stop, which is not a bus bench, it's a bus stop, if you can get there, and you can't stand and wait for half hour or whatever it takes, then you can't ride the bus. If you can't get on the bus, then you can't ride the bus. If you can't bump along on the bus, then you can't ride the bus. So there are lots of obstacles in the way for many of our vulnerable populations to not be able to take advantage of the small transit program that we have. Wonderful as it is, it doesn't meet all the needs of our vulnerable populations. And I'm not finding fault with it, it's just that there's a segment of our population that has to have the door-to-door, one-on-one service that the Volunteer Center provides. And many of our of these persons that fall into this category, for one reason or another, they don't meet the criteria financially or whatever for the many services that we do have available for our elderly and persons with handicap population. So if they don't meet that criteria, then they're kind of like a leaf in a windstorm, kind of stuck out there. And without the door-to-door program that the Volunteer Center operates, then they really have no place else to go. So I just have this to share if you want to share with people that you know. We're always wanting to, striving to enhance and expand the volunteer driver list. We'd like to partner with a lot of the local churches in the area, because a lot of them are aware, most of them I believe are aware of the needs, and they stood on my homework And so they try to take care of this sort of thing within their religious community. And so I'd like very much for us to be able to partner and network together, so we can not reinvent the wheel every time we try to.
But Marty, you're not asking to be an operator of a
Pardon?
you're not asking to be an operator of a public transportation system.
No, I was under the impression that you wanted to hear what transportation opportunities were out there with regard to our vulnerable populations. So apparently I have that wrong.
Well, the purpose of this public hearing is to determine, whether we are a county where no private nonprofits are readily available to provide services to specifically support elderly and disabled citizens. It's a question of whether this transit system is eligible to receive funds under a state program. We would have to, as a result of a public hearing, to find that there is no readily available nonprofit that could provide the service in lieu of the transit system. That's what this hearing is about.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, once again, thank you for letting me share with you about the Volunteer Center.
All right, thank you. Would anybody else like to speak to this subject? Again, we have a public hearing currently underway to determine whether there are any readily available nonprofits to provide paratransit services to elderly and senior citizens. If there's nobody else wishing to speak, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for consideration. Anybody wish to speak to this topic?
Yeah, I would just like to ask Nathan, you heard the kind of service that Marty is saying that they offer. It's intermittent at best. And I think that this represents a potential catch-22 for us. If we had Marty do a better job, we might not qualify for the funding. So under what criteria would you have to define the availability of this, the provisions for transportation?
It is my understanding that the federal criteria is that the services have to meet or exceed what is existing. And right now, Calaveras Transit currently operates a 3/4 mile deviation on any of the existing routes to do curb-to-curb pickup, which is different than door-to-door pickup. We provide ADA accessible lifts on every single bus that we operate. We run the routes regularly. We have 38 independent runs on 6 different routes throughout the county, extending to Lodi, Sonora, and Jackson. So the nonprofit agency would need to meet that criteria or in similar service to be available within the same time windows and within the same area at minimum than we currently operate as a public entity.
All right, and have you heard of or seen anything either inside or outside the previous public hearing that makes you believe that there's any such entity in Calaveras County?
No, I have not. But if there is, we welcome them to come to us and let us know, and we'd like to work with them to improve their services and improve our services and work cohesively.
While we got you up here, we did hear of your impending, it's not a demise, it's a spectacular job opportunity in another location, and I want to express both my congratulations and sincere regrets at the possibility of losing your excellent services here.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Nathan, on our current system, how many, what is the ridership of senior individuals or disabled individuals?
I do not have specific numbers on elderly and disabled individuals, but I do have in our monthly report reporting of how often we use the ADA lift and the locations that we use those lifts. On average, we operate about 20 days a month, Monday through Friday service, and we typically use the lift 4 or 5 times a day on that service. So It varies from location to location. We have some dedicated riders that pick up near the post office in San Andreas and ride out to Columbia College and use the ADA lifts for those purposes. We cannot ask whether or not they are independently disabled. But if they do request to use the lift, then we provide that service.
When we started this program, the senior center came over and said there was no need to have a transit system for seniors, that any senior that calls into the senior center has volunteers that would respond to their needs, whether it be in county or out of county for doctor's appointments or any other types of needs. If you, I don't know whether our current transit system has put them out of business as far as providing senior services, or do they still provide senior services?
I believe they still provide that service. I believe that the amount of that service has declined with the expansion of our public transit system, but I do know that they still provide that service at a minimum level for independent people that require that service.
Well, if we have a volunteer center basically doing providing for disabled and senior people, and we have a senior center providing for it, even though we may have usurped some of their efforts, I don't quite see how we make the finding on item 13 that's required, because quite frankly we do have independent volunteer organizations that do provide for the disabled and for senior citizens when it comes to movement needs, either within the county or outside of the county.
Those entities would need to show to the Board of Supervisors that they are willing and able to provide services at the same level that we're providing as a county.
Russ?
I think our number one volunteer has a comment.
I just wanted to say that the senior center, when you call and you ask them about their ability and their volunteers, they're talking about the volunteer center, and because we partner very closely. And then also, the volunteer center can only take those citizens that can get in and out of the car by themselves. So there is no like crossover of what they're doing versus what we're doing.
Do you have lifts or the capacity
absolutely
to?
not.
Okay.
We are volunteers like myself lending an arm to get in and out of a vehicle.
Have you worked with the senior center, and do you know if they have lifts or that kind of equipment?
They have nothing. When you call there, they refer you to the volunteer center, or they give me the phone number, and then I call you back.
Okay, so we're really talking about one and the same.
Pardon?
We're really talking about one and the same operation then.
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. And we are not prepared to do what our transit system does. Please, keep them healthy.
I'm Kathy Mazzaferro, and I'm a citizen of San Andreas, and the reason I asked to speak with Marty on this subject is because as a community member, I've been working to help the seniors in very small ways, just try and keep their senior citizen center open. That's what the SOS dinners were about earlier this spring, was a fundraiser for those centers. And they don't, like many volunteer organizations, especially those that rely on our retired population, they're having a more and more difficult time having members come forward, and certainly they're not in the position, as Marty just said, to provide transportation for anybody unless they're completely mobile. My mother had a stroke on Christmas Day, and thankfully it was mild, but one of the things she needed was transportation to and from some of the rehabilitation centers. Now, she's fortunate in that both my brother and I live here in Calaveras County. However, on those times when I was, let's say in Sacramento at a meeting, the volunteer center had transportation set up, but she's in a real catch-22 because you can't have anybody sent to your home for these services. unless you're completely unable to get out of the chair. Yeah, and that's for Medicare and insurance, et cetera. So if you're able to walk, well, then why can't you drive? Well, I want you to think about a 75-year-old arthritic woman who can't talk, driving herself to Jackson for speech therapy. And that's where the volunteer center comes in, but they're having trouble getting volunteers, and the cost of gasoline, as Marty alluded to, is going to be driving them out. So in answer to Tom's question, I don't believe that these are going to be viable entities that we can rely on and say, well, they should step forward, because none of those cars are handicapped accessible unless you're completely mobile.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I just want to reiterate that we want to keep our transit because it's a good partnership. For every person that can ride it, we totally encourage it, and it's a wonderful connection with not just transportation, but a connection with the outside world and an independence. It empowers them, and we just want to be a piece to the puzzle. So, thank you.
Thank you. Board comments? Public hearing, by the way, was closed, so we're now back with the board.
Well, I just have to say again what I mentioned one time prior in these proceedings, that on one occasion I visited my doctor's office across the road over here, and prior to going into the doctor's office, I saw the Calaveras Transit bus roll up in front, and the doors opened, and the lift came down, and there was an elderly lady that was wheeled into. In fact, I helped her get into the doctor's office, and I thought, okay, that's we're doing something worthwhile, and I don't know how else she would have gotten there. So I don't know. Others may want to comment, but I'm very close to being inclined to move the resolution. So.
Second.
Or I did move the resolution.
Okay. Just trying to get this technically right. There is a motion, a second. Is there further discussion? In that event, we will vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Motion passes on a 3-1-1 vote. Mr. Claudino being absent. We will now move to item 14 to discuss securing federal funding under FTA Section 5310.
I move item 14.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any comment, public comment on this item? We have a motion and a second. Still opportunity to discuss. All right. Motion second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Motion passes on a 3-1-1.
Thank you.
We now move to item 15. This is actually the next two items are code compliance issues. Is Mr. Barr present? Would you like to present these?
Sure. Good morning, Todd Barr with Calaveras County Code Compliance. First one is minute order to uphold the findings and recommendations of the Administrative Hearing Board, Code Compliance Case 0804, regarding violations of Calaveras County Code involving Fred and Renee Kirk. This case originated in November of 2001, went on to March of 2008. A couple times they had made progress towards compliance, and then the property reverted back to its previous condition, and there was a structure on the property that had become dangerous and dilapidated to the point that it needed to be at least boarded up. Administrative citation was issued on March 27th of 2008. Following that, he did get the house boarded up and cleaned up the property just prior to the administrative hearing being held. So basically, he is in compliance at this point and is working on new plans, I believe, for a house on the property.
I believe those plans are pending.
Yes.
Before the planning department, or in the planning department? Or is it?
I don't think he's submitted yet. He's got a couple more things to do.
All right. Is there anybody from the public wishing to address the board on this subject? I do have a question. for you. I look at the record here, and we got a guy who finally came into compliance, but it is over a period of what looks to be approximately 8 years.
6, I think, isn't it?
6
It's
years,
6 or 7, yeah.
but a little bit of dribble in there as well. Sometimes I wonder whether we're actually, and I just wanted your opinion on this, that when it stretches out over that length of time, we have a lot of staff time that goes into it. Somewhere along the line, if we had drawn the kind of last line earlier, it might have reduced the amount of staff time. And ultimately, I believe that it was generosity of spirit that, we wanted to see whether they'd come into compliance. We didn't want to be harsh. But ultimately, the result is more harsh as a result of more time being spent. There's more of a lien on the property that's placed to make up for the staff time. Is there some way that we might minimize this in the future? Do you have any thoughts about this? Because it seems people get more serious late in the game, and that all that staff time may have been for naught earlier.
I think there's a couple ways we can minimize administrative costs, and I think we're doing that at this point. We got up to over 500 cases in a very short period of time, and we're still there. But with the newer cases that are coming in now, we're keeping up with them, and we're actually moving them along a lot quicker. Some of the older cases, because of priorities, they end up falling to the back of the pack. We're trying not to do that now. And then, like I said, if we streamline our process, that'll also cut down on a lot of staff costs. The staff costs that go into just this packet right here and getting it to the board, I believe, is somewhere around 6 hours in itself by the time we get it done.
Yep.
I want to make a comment. Todd alludes to something that we're always talking about, too, is streamlining. This item should not be before us. And I know our code does not allow it at this time, so I'd like the code changed. What should be before the Board of Supervisors are only appeals that the, I want to call it,
The property owner,
commission,
if the
or
property
whatever
owner
they're
wants to
called.
come before you,
I
yes.
mean, they made a decision, there's no appeal. My feeling is this shouldn't be before us, though I understand why it is. So in terms of what you were talking about, streamlining, are you going to be proposing or bringing to the board or at some point streamlining the code, 8.06?
Yes, that's what I'm doing right now. I submitted a draft, actually, to Mike Rodriguez. We need to sit down and work on it together.
Okay.
But that process has begun.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe that would be well received by this board.
Yeah.
All right. Yes, Russ?
Yeah, I just have a comment, Todd, on, there's a form here, the Code Compliance Unit Reimbursement Schedule.
Yes.
Could I get you to look at that with me?
What page, Russ?
It's page 9 of this presentation.
Oh, I thought it was 6, I'm sorry.
It is 9.
At the
Okay.
at the bottom of the page where you're summarizing all these figures, you have under Courtney Meinhardt's hours, you have 4.25 times $35.
Yes.
I looked at that and I couldn't quite get my eyes focused on how that could end up being $590.75, but it becomes $590.75 if you add the 442 that's in the adjacent column. If this it looks like there's plenty of room on this form. It's obviously an Excel spreadsheet. I would really recommend that you clean that up so that each figure crossfoots individually without adding two together. Do you see why?
Okay, yes, I see the total should have been out in the far right-hand column, is what you're asking.
Well, no. I'm just saying that, look under Chris Kemper. You have 5 times 35 is 175.
Uh-huh.
And then you have these other hours are 1.25 times 35 is 43.75. Whereas over under Courtney's column, 4.25 times 35 cannot be 590.75. it's, you only get to that figure if you add the adjacent figure in the adjacent column. It's just cumbersome when you're looking quickly at a form like this, there's an inconsistency in the presentation. So I'm just asking to clean it up.
Sure, no problem.
All right. And the other question I have, Mr. Chairman, is if we have this minute order here has an April 22nd date. I'm assuming that we moved that over to May 6th. But this passing a motion to adopt the findings as presented that a public nuisance exists, if it's been abated, how is that a true statement?
I believe it's been modified.
That was, the public nuisance exists when the citation was issued, is what that is. And that is how that should read.
Okay.
Yes, I wanted the, whatever revision that would accurately reflect current conditions to be
Yes.
Made in whatever motion comes forward. Is there any further board comment on this before we take action? Somebody like to make the motion?
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I will move the minute order, but with a change in that number 1 paragraph there to adopt the findings that a public nuisance did exist, but has been abated under the various code sections. I move that with that modification.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes on a 4-0-1. Thank you. Item 16.
Okay, this one is a minute order to uphold the findings and recommendations of the Administrative Hearing Board in Code Compliance Case 0805 regarding violations of Calaveras County Code involving John and Rose Marie Rodriguez Trust. It's care of Pamela Rodriguez. This case is a little bit different. It's actually been to you guys the second time now. The first one was a dangerous building that we thought we should move very quickly on because of the particular hazards that were there. We did that, brought it to you. That building is on the ground now. They ended up actually tearing it down themselves. This particular case is actually addressing the junk and debris problem on the property, some illegal camping, and at this time the violations do still exist on the property. But this also went over a couple of years. Actually 2007 is when this particular case pretty much got into motion, and then in March of 2008 is when the administrative citation was issued. And like I said, the violations still do exist on the property.
Okay, is there anybody present to speak to this issue? I believe this would be in Supervisor Claudino's district.
Yes.
I'll move the minute order.
All right. We have a minute order moved by Supervisor Callaway. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 4-0-1.
Todd, the same error occurs on the calculation sheet. Okay.
All right, we move to item 17. This is Human Resources, Sheriff, Animal Control, and Administration. Interesting juxtapositions there, but we'll go to item 17.
Good morning, Francine Osborne, Director, Human Resources and Risk Management. This is kind of an exciting thing that we're offering. We're partnering Human Resources, Supervisor Callaway, and CalWorks are jointly requesting board approval to participate in the NACO discount prescription drug program. This is a new program. It's been around since '05, but it's starting to catch some steam. There's actually quite a few counties nationwide that participate in the program. It's a way to help county residents with the high prescription drug costs. It's really made for the underinsured and uninsured, but it also helps retirees. with the high prescription drug costs. There's no cost to the county, to the taxpayers, or to the residents that participate. It's a way that we could offer some help to the residents, and we're excited to bring this forward. Part of this program, what will happen is if the board approves this and signs the contract, then NACO and Caremark will put together a card with the county logo on it, and with help from CalWorks, they will get this out in the field. There will be all kinds of brochures and, public announcements that will be prepared so we can get the word out to everybody so they can start utilizing the card to get discounts on prescription drugs. So this program will also complement a program that CalWorks already has in place. And Mary Sawicki, the director of CalWorks, is here to talk a little bit about how both these programs will complement one another.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mary Sawicki, Director of Calaveras Works and Human Services. The department presently has available a particular drug discount program called Family Wise. This is put out by the United Way organization, and it allows a discount of up to 20% for those who don't have any particular prescription drug insurance, and for those drugs that are recommended but are not covered by somebody's prescription drug program, they can receive up to a 20% discount on that. When we, if with your approval, we are eligible to offer also the NACO drug program, discount program. That will complement, the Family Wise card will complement the NACO card, so actually our residents could actually receive even more of a discount because they both are at about 20%. The Family Wise is up to 20%, up to $20. Yes.
So does this actually compound to the point where it's 40%, up to 40%?
It could potentially be up to 40%. So even if you have insurance, the nice part about this, if you have a prescription that's not covered through your plan, you're eligible to use these cards for those as well. And in our area, we have just about a pharmacy in every town that is participating. Both programs are offered by Caremark. And so they're the ones who have negotiated the discounts with the pharmacies, and there's no way, in essence, to lose on this particular offering. Any questions?
I'd like to ask a couple of questions about eligibility. You said that you could not have current coverage except for Family Wise. What does that?
Well, the issue is that there are sometimes people have, you may have a pharmacy benefit to your insurance, but sometimes you get some drugs recommended for you that aren't covered by your insurance. These cards would assist with those.
Okay, so it's not, the criteria is not whether you have coverage, it is for anything that you are not covered.
Anything that would normally not be covered, plus for those who don't have any insurance at all, they will get, they are eligible to get up to 40%, 20 on one card, up to 20% on the other card.
Okay. So this would be all people in the county that would be eligible?
Yeah, you can't lose.
All county residents.
Great.
Okay.
It was one of those things when I heard, I thought, no, I'm not reading this right. There's a catch here. And when I talked with Francine and Mary, they were very enthusiastic about wanting to pull this together for the residents of the county. And there's no means, criteria, no nothing.
No, all family members are covered. It has even a built-in system where if you go to get a prescription drug and there's problems with prescriptions being prescribed, it has safety measures, but it's a win-win all the way around. There's a, with the economy, high gas, anytime we can save some money and help people get there, we're anxious to do that.
Okay, is there further board discussion? Any questions? Or would somebody like to make a motion?
I would. Unless Russ.
I think Marita's actually earned this one.
I think she's earned this one.
Just before the motion, though, I just want to point out that I have had a conversation with a supervisor in an adjacent county. They've been talking about this for several weeks now, and there seems to be some concern that the smaller pharmacies, the independently owned pharmacies, that this isn't necessarily a wonderful thing for them, because the discount, Mary said that the Caremark had negotiated these arrangements with all the pharmacies, but it from what I can gather, it puts an undue burden on them, because they can't really pass on, or they don't get reimbursed for the discounted price, or to compensate for offering this fairly significant discount. So I think on balance I'm in supportive of a program that will give discounts to the overall community, but I'm a little nervous about how it might adversely affect a small independent pharmacy. The way it was explained to me is that the Longs, Rite Aid, some of the larger chains, they quite obviously have the ability to absorb that discount that they're offering more effectively. So, has anybody talked to the drugstore across the street to see if they're thrilled about it?
Actually, what we did do in preparation, and actually CalWorks assisted with that, is we actually printed out, because we know it was a concern in Tuolumne County about the smaller pharmacies. You know, Rite Aid, like you said, Longs, Walmart, some of the bigger prescription drug providers would be the ones that, you know, would get most of the business, but how does it affect the smaller agencies? And actually in this area, Kelly's Drug is there, Murphy's Pharmacy, Rayleigh's Drug Center, Pinecone Drug, Meadowmont, all of the little pharmacies in our county are participants in there. So there is a little bit of a charge, so I think that they do lose. When I was reading how it works with Caremark, there is a little bit of a cost to those pharmacies, but all of these pharmacies are on the list that do honor the card. So at least in our county, as opposed to Tuolumne, I know that it was concerned, and I did read an article where their board did not approve it because they were worried about the business. We checked with the little pharmacies, and they are participators. So that made us feel better as well about bringing this forward.
Okay, thanks for doing that.
I'll second Marita's motion.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes on 4-0-1.
Francine, Mary, thank you very much.
Hope we'll get the word out. Maybe the press would like to banner headline this one. It seems to affect just about everybody in the county. All right, moving to item 18, resolution implementing provisions of section 414H2 of the Internal Revenue Code. There's an exciting measure.
This item was brought to you once before, and what we were seeking was approval from the board to basically offer the ability to have a payroll deduction for pre-tax when you do service credits. And we talked about a couple of options before we would bring this back to whether or not we would need a study session to do it. We needed to work with CalPERS and another employee that was interested in it. Also, all the employees that currently have and participate in service credit. We've done all that. It was actually an interesting process because CalPERS employee division would not allow us to have a call with the employer division. So we had some conflicts, but we were able to get the answers that we need to bring it forward. We did send letters out to all of the employees with an attachment letting them know how this process would take effect, that they actually will have the ability to choose whether they want to remain as the post-tax or move into the pre-tax, and we've given them information about if they make that decision, how that will affect them. As far as the policy decision, it's not really a CalPERS policy decision, it's the agency's policy decision on if they want to just offer one or the other. And it has mainly to do with business processes and whether or not you can handle the multiple options. And there's actually 3 options: the pre-tax, the after-tax, And then there's the after-tax that actually is direct lump sum and for retirees that would come out of their retiree allotment. So it's kind of a complex program, but the only way we can really offer the pre-tax is by the board adopting this resolution. And we have enough interest from employees that don't actually participate in the service credit that would like to if we have this option available. So we are seeking your approval to allow this and allow employees to have the ability to have the pre-tax option. Those that already participate can remain in the program they are or switch over. Another kind of built-in kind of security is CalPERS will also, once we send them the resolution, will notify each and every county employee that is participating in service credits.
Okay, I do remember from the last discussion that there was some question about whether it was an all or nothing, and you found actually that people have a choice between pre-tax or remaining with their existing.
Right, and the concern was if you did move over, you had multiple different options. How does CalPERS deal with that? And they actually have separate buckets for each one that they manage.
That seemed to be the big hang-up.
Yes.
But you found enough interest to make this worthwhile.
We did.
All right. Is there any further question or comment from the board? Is there a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
A second.
There's a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes on 4-0-1. Moving to item
Thank you.
19. We're talking animal control.
Animal Services, Mr. Chair.
Excuse me.
Please.
Animal Services.
My name is Lori Murray. I'm Sergeant, Calaveras County Sheriff's Office. I'm the current supervisor for the Animal Services Division, here with Captain Clay Hawkins. Lady and gentlemen of the board, what's before you today is a proposal for a low-cost microchip program in the county. Currently, dogs and cats can be microchipped at local veterinarian offices. This could cost a pet owner $30, $40 to $60 or more just to have the chip implanted in the animal. Then that owner still needs to register that chip number with the microchip company. That can cost them an additional $15 to $20 to register that number, and with most companies, that fee is a yearly fee. They have to redo that every year. The program that I'm proposing is through Avid Chip Company, and they have a chip program that they do with shelters and SPCAs and whatnot. Their chips are $5.25 for the chip. For an additional $5, that includes a lifetime registration of the microchip with their company. If we are allowed to implement this microchip program, we can microchip a person's dog or cat for a flat fee of $12. We take care of the registration, and it's good to go. The importance of microchipping these animals, we get a lot of dogs and cats that come into our shelter. A lot of them come in as strays. They don't have tags, they don't have microchips, and we can't reunite these animals with their owners. We also see a lot of dogs that come in that do have microchips. We call the company. The person didn't register the number with the company. We still can't reunite that animal with their owner because we don't know who the owner is. The more animals that we can get microchipped in the county, in the eventuality that they end up at our shelter, the quicker we can get those animals reunited with their owners. Another benefit to that is the less amount of time that those animals have to stay in our shelter, that we have to care for them. We're not feeding for them. If they're sick or injured, that's less vet bills that we're going to have to pay for those animals. And the more animals we can move out, because our shelter is so small and our kennel space is limited, if we get inundated with dogs, sometimes I have to euthanize an adoptable dog to make room for another dog coming in. The stress that puts on the staff is horrendous. So the less feed, less vet bills, The more dogs we can get out of our shelter to keep those kennels open for incoming animals, is just overall is better. There's some changes that need to be made to the couple of ordinances. One is the adoption ordinance for our county, and the change that I'm proposing is to make it mandatory. Anytime we adopt a dog or cat out of the shelter, they are microchipped. That's just another way of increasing the numbers of animals that have microchip in the event they should end up at our shelter. The two other ordinances deal with potentially dangerous dogs or vicious dogs. We've run into situations where a dog's been deemed potentially dangerous or vicious, and that's decided in the courts. That owner takes that dog home. They have requirements they have to abide by. Their expensive insurance policy, they have to keep the dog contained, they have to inform us if they dispose of the dog in one manner or another. Because of the costs involved with that, we were finding some owners, not all, most people are compliant with that, but some will say, well, we don't have the dog anymore. Well, we go to their house, we see the big black lab, is like, well, that's the dog. They're like, oh, no, that's a different dog. Without a microchip, we really don't have a way to confirm it. So the potentially dangerous and vicious dog ordinances, I'm asking that it be mandatory if someone's animal is deemed potentially dangerous or vicious, that it becomes mandatory that that dog is microchipped. Now, they can have us do it, or they can go to the vet and do it. We don't care. The dog needs to be microchipped, so we have a way to possibly identify that animal because of the public safety that that animal presents. We need to be able to track it. In a nutshell, if you have any questions on this.
Any questions?
Sergeant Marie, I do. If you have a dog who has a current chip and was chipped out of county, can you bring that dog to the shelter and go and pay $5 and go on the county's chip program, or do you have to re-chip the dog?
Now, if the dog's already chipped, the Avid chip program doesn't
Yeah, but you know what?
cover
I'm going to get a
dogs
little
that are
personal
already
here.
chipped.
I have a dog that's been chipped in another county that I've now acquired. I don't know that prior owner ever paid the 15 or 20 bucks or whatever to. I didn't even know about it. So since I'm now the owner of the dog, the guardian of the dog, can I bring the dog to the shelter and you can work the magic and it becomes part of the county's register of chips, or does it need to be re-chipped?
No, you should not have to re-chip it. What you do is bring the animal in, we'll scan the animal, and we can call that microchip company. And then find out who the microchip owner was prior to that, if they even registered. If they haven't, you can probably register that number with the company since you are the owner. We also have in our system, our chameleon system, we can put microchips in our system and look up dogs on our system. It just won't be on like a national registry like it would.
We'll talk later. So if somebody, trying not to personalize it, if somebody chips the dog in Calaveras, excuse me, and they move out of county or, and the dog's picked up in Kansas City, will we know, will it come back to Calaveras? Because the person comes to us, we chip it, they pay the extra $5. So for $12, they're in our database, but will Kansas City or Bakersfield know?
Yes, because we put that chip information in our database. We also have the ability to export that information to Avid Chip Company. We export the information to them that this person had their animal microchipped at our shelter. It goes into their national database.
Okay. Thank you. I just, because people move in and out.
Right.
I I'm glad Shirley Ryan's here. Clay, I do have a question on the ordinance. Under A, all spay-neuter fees, deposits shall be, et cetera, to the spay-neuter trust fund. Is that a designated fund, and is it interest-bearing?
What do you,
I don't know if
Clay
it's
knows.
bearing or not.
no.
Okay,
I don't
Shirley,
believe so.
do you know? I meant, if it's an interest-bearing account to the spay-neuter trust fund, then it needs to be in the ordinance. If it's not,
No.
then, I mean, I just felt like that needs to be clarified. Okay. So, I mean, just for the record, I'll make the motion that we, or introduce this, waive reading, but not until that section, not to be signed by the chair until that section's clarified. I just think it keeps it clear.
Well, the spay-neuter trust fund is not an interest-bearing account.
Oh, okay.
It is not. That trust fund is actually a part of a state fund. It's in the Food and Agricultural Code. Anybody that, say you adopt a dog or a cat, but it's too young to be spayed or neutered, you would pay a deposit for that spay and neutering, and when you get that animal spayed or neutered, that deposit is refunded back to you. If you do not, that money goes into the trust fund. Also, if your dog or cat is impounded and it's not spayed or neutered, and you come and redeem that animal, the state imposes a fee for having your animal impounded without it, and it's not spayed and neutered. That fee, or that fine, also goes into the trust fund. That trust fund is set up to provide spay and neuter of animals.
For Calaveras County.
For Calaveras County. Every animal control agency has their own system or fund set up to absorb the deposits or the fines that the state imposes for impounds. And we have three purposes that we can use that fund for. One is for the actual spay and neutering of animals. The second one is for administrative costs of administering the program. And also we can use the monies in that fund for educational purposes on spay and neutering within the communities.
But don't you want to receive interest on the money in the fund? I mean, it's either,
I guess
it's
we
either for
could,
you or
but,
for us.
yeah.
I think it just needs to be clarified. If it's a small amount, I mean, you know me, I'd like to give it to them, but I think we need to just get that confirmed, and if so, put it in the ordinance. That's all the questions I have on this one, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any other comment?
Well, I'm just wondering about the arithmetic. I'm very much in support of what you're trying to do here, but the pages aren't numbered, but the program talking about it'll pay for itself, and it talks about the adoption fee for a cat is currently $5.15 for a dog. We add 12 to the 5 and get 17, but if you add 12 to 15, you're saying it's 22. Are you offering some kind of a discount for dogs or something? Shouldn't it be?
No, it was an error in my math.
So it should be 27, is that correct?
I had a couple of questions. Knowing that adoptions are not always easy, especially in economically difficult times, I'm wondering whether you see the increase as any barrier to the rates of adoption.
I do not. Our adoption rates compared to
Pretty low.
even the Humane Society, SPCA, and other shelters is low.
Okay. I also had a comment as well as a more generic one, but I've been hearing just all kinds of great things about your work in this department from staff, from volunteers, and from people just in general public. You're doing a great job, apparently noticed by all. thought it worth mentioning here today.
Thank you.
Nice, thank you. Lori's done a heck of a job.
Yeah, it's really quite something. Is there a motion?
Well, we have three ordinances before us.
Yes. Shall we do these separately?
Collective.
Yeah, let's, actually, because it's the same issue, why don't we combine these into a single motion?
With the exception of 1608-040. Okay, I move the introduction of all three ordinances and waive reading.
There's a motion.
Can I just ask a question, because we need to have a minimum of 5 days between the introduction and the adoption. And there's a little unclarity, at least in my mind, as to whether we're actually introducing 040 today or at some future date.
No, we're introducing it today.
I believe the intent is to do it today.
With 0408, 040, Mr. Jones? My intent is to introduce it today, just to clarify, which I'm assuming could be done today, that if it's an interest-bearing, then the ordinance be modified to show that it's interest-bearing, but that it not come back to the board.
It has to come back to
It has to come back.
I meant
next
for
week.
adoption,
Right.
but not for introduction.
But it wouldn't be for
I
introduction.
understand. I think that would be a minor change there.
All right.
Okay.
So that's the intent of the board, is to review and finalize that. It's not a material change in it. We would be waiving reading, and we would be moving adoption at the next board meeting, should this resolution pass, ordinance pass, motion pass. So, any further discussion on it before we vote?
With the change in arithmetic.
Yes. It's as amended
That's in the cover.
by earlier discussion. I don't believe we yet have a second, but I'd entertain one at this time.
Second.
Motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? This passes on a 4-0-1, and thank you for your good work and continued ongoing due diligence on this.
Well, yeah, but they'll be adopting the fees as presented.
We now move to item 21.
20.
Excuse me.
You did both of them.
That we
No, 19 had three ordinances.
Right, okay. We moved
20
to
is
20.
the
This is
separate
the
part.
license
Don't
issue.
get between me and the animal shelter, Triumph.
Believe me, I have no intention of that, or even getting between you and Tryon on this.
That's why we're hearing numbers.
There's a reason we're sitting.
I believe the math on this one has been carefully reviewed. Would you like to tell us your intentions?
Yes. Currently, Calaveras County's ordinances allow for a one-year license period on dog licensing. It is a trend across the state to have multiple-year licensing. And this is something that's brought to my attention when I was brand new to animal services and trying to figure out the ropes. Members of the DAC committee brought this to my attention, that there had been some previous discussions, and asked if I could look into this further. Currently, in the state of California mandates that your dog has to be vaccinated for rabies. Part of this county's licensing program is to help monitor the rabies program. And essentially, your dog cannot have a license until it's been vaccinated for rabies, but you have to have it vaccinated for rabies, and so that they go hand in hand. On a one-year schedule for licensing, it creates a lot of paperwork for our office, obviously. We're mailing out a lot of invoices every month as courtesies to dog owners to remind them that their license fee is due. We can greatly minimize that by giving people options to increase the amount of years that their dogs are licensed. A lot of people have asked, can I license more than 1 year? They don't want to have to keep coming in every year or have to be bothered with it. And initially, rabies vaccinations only ran for a period of 1 year. You had to get boosters every year. Then that went up to 2 years. Currently, veterinarian standard is a 3-year rabies vaccination. The only exception to that is if it's the first time your dog has received the vaccination, it's only good for a year. But after that, it's every 3 years your dog gets a booster. Since our licensing goes hand in hand with the vaccinations and the potential cost savings on administrative work for us and enforcement, I'd like to propose that this county adopt a multi-license dog licensing fee schedule. I have a schedule written out in attachment 2. Each dog is, if it's altered or non-altered, there's different fees. If the dog is altered, meaning that it's spayed or neutered, it's a $10 fee for the 1-year license. A non-altered dog is $20. And the amount of people that come in and complain about these fees to me, I beg them and implore them to go look at surrounding counties, especially San Joaquin County, where a altered dog license is $60 and an unaltered is as much as $120. So our licensing fees are nothing. And to offer people options and to encourage them to go for the multi-year licensing. In the fee schedule, I have offered them a little discount on the licensing fees to help encourage that. Also, in addition to that, recognizing that we do have a senior population in our county. A lot of them are on fixed incomes, and I think that they should also receive a senior discount on their licensing, which is reflected in the schedule that I proposed here. Because a dog cannot receive a license unless its vaccination is current, there's going to be some times where someone will come in and want to license their dog, but their vaccination is only going to be good for the next 2 years. They would have to get a 2-year license versus 3 years, so that when that new vaccine period comes up, then they can go for the 3-year license. A lot of counties only do 1 or 3 years. I've included a 2-year in here, just to give people more options. So you have a dog that's 12, 13 years old, maybe not in the best of health, you're not sure if it's going to last a couple more years, they can do a 1 or 2 year versus doing the full 3 years. And I think it's important that we do offer that option to them, since licensing fees are non-refundable. So in a nutshell there, that is, if you have any questions on that.
Sergeant Murray said the Domestic Animal Advisory Committee has been very active in wanting to pursue this, and I'm sure they appreciate it. I know I do. I really like the options that you gave, and that we're doing one for a senior discount also. I think the county will save a lot of money through this process, and it really makes sense. Streamline. I'd like to move the introduction of the ordinance.
Okay, there's a motion. Why don't I take a second and then call for discussion?
I'll second the motion.
All right, and Russ, you have a comment?
Well, I hate to keep bringing up these little nitpicky arithmetic problems, but it seems to me that looking at the senior 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, that you're offering a disincentive to go for multiple years. I'm a senior and I have the option of getting a 1 year license for an altered dog for $5. Why would I want to give you $12 for a 2 year license?
That's a good point.
It's a very good question.
Likewise, why would I want to give you $32 for a 2 year license for a $15 license? So.
Because it costs you $15 in gas to get down to San Andreas.
I would do it just so I don't have to be hassled in here. Do it again.
No.
I think that's a good point.
It's a point well made.
And I see your point, and what I had done there is, I took $5 off the senior, so I just went across the board, 1 year licensing, 5 years off of that, 2 years, 5 years off of that. I didn't notice the discrepancy.
Before we pass this, would you like to reconsider the figures? That's Russ.
Yes,
suggest?
Certainly.
I will readjust those figures to make them a little more consistent. So.
Do we want to name a particular figure in this before?
For like senior 2-year, we'll make it 10. Senior 3-year, 20.
And maybe 7 for 1 year?
You like the senior 1 year to be more, or
That'd be $2 more.
$2 more? What do I have here?
7, 10, and what are you proposing for 3?
20.
Well, the other thing, if you're going to make it 7 for the first year, make it 6 for the second year is 13, and 5 for the third year is 18. And then you have a little bit of an incentive. You have $1 each year to work off of.
I would support Tom's numbers.
Yep, that's good.
Everybody okay with that?
7, 8,
7, 13, and
Well, an
18.
additional 7, then 13, and then 18. So you have $1 incentive for each year.
So a rational economic actor would be...
I think a rational economic actor would still, even for the extra $2, it would be worth my time not to have to hassle it again. Make out another check, put another envelope in the mail, probably get something saying I'm late, and I have a $5 penalty or something.
Sergeant Murray's good at taking late fees, Tom.
All right, so we have an amended numbers for this particular motion. Would anybody like to make the motion as amended?
We haven't suggested numbers for the non-altered column. Want to do your arithmetic on that one, Tom?
I don't have it. I didn't open it up. So what is the issue on the...
Well,
you just did the altered, but not the non-altered.
So change non-altered, Tom.
So what's the current?
It's 15 for
year?
1 year. So it'd be like 28
yeah.
for year 2.
Well, 15, and then take $1 off? I mean, we really want them to get altered. I mean, the idea of sending unaltered dogs out there is, I just take $1, $1 off. If it's 15 for 1 year, add an additional 14, and then add an additional 13.
That would make it 29 and 42.
15, 29, 42.
Is that
Yep.
acceptable?
That's what it makes. All right.
Looks good to me.
Okay, so we have the altered and non-altered alterations. Those have now been added to the motion, I believe.
I would like the record to show that everybody on the board is unaltered.
Tryon, you're so proud.
And unevolved in some cases. We'll go to a motion, please.
You have a motion. You have a second.
All right.
They still hold.
Yes. All right. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We have passed the motion 401, and
Sergeant
keep up the
Murray,
good
thank
work
you.
out there.
Thank you.
Now we move to item 21. I believe this comes from administration. Shirley?
Good morning, Shirley Ryan, Administrative Office. What I have before you is a recommendation to authorize a 2-year contract with Galena LLC, also known as Bartik, Bassler and Ray, for annual audit services. As explained in the staff report, last June, an item was brought before the board by the Administrative Office on behalf of the grand jury to look at the proposals from 2 auditing firms for the annual audit. At that time, it was the recommendation of the grand jury, and the board directed via minute order to enter into an agreement with Moss Levy and Hartheim. Unfortunately, we can find no record of a contract ever actually being signed. When the auditor's office contacted Moss Levy in April, the return phone call we received was that one of the senior partners, Mr. Moss, had become ill and passed away. The remaining partners had taken over the firm. However, there had been significant staffing changes, and they no longer felt they had the staffing to meet the needs of our annual audit. The original proposals, when the grand jury did the RFP, we only received 2 responses, one from Moss Levy and one from Bartik, Bassler, and Ray. So the auditor and administrative office and the grand jury foreman met. The grand jury foreman was taking it back to the grand jury for a vote. They called an emergency meeting and were somewhat dismayed that the contract had never been signed with Moss Levy. They felt that maybe that would have given us some leverage in negotiations. However, they did recognize the fact that if they had lost staffing, that Moss Levy would not be able to adequately provide for the audit services. And so we contacted Bartik, Bassler, and Ray. They said they were willing to enter into a contract based on their original proposal, which was a 2-year proposal for the current fiscal year ending June 30th, 2008, and June 30th, 2009, for the amount quoted in their proposal. And given the fact that at this point it's really kind of late to go out and do another RFP for services for this current fiscal year's audit, and we have no other, they're familiar with the county, that it is the recommendation to enter into this agreement. And hopefully in the ensuing time we can put together an RFP between the grand jury, the auditor's office, and the administrative office, get that out and get some quotes and make sure that the contract is signed this time.
Thank you. Board questions?
Well, I remember the discussion that we had, and as I recall, there was about a $30,000 annual savings that we could get if we went to this alternate firm. And I remember, I think I remember that the auditor was not particularly pleased with our decision to go that way, and I'm just kind of wondering out loud whether that had anything to do with the fact that the contract wasn't executed.
No, I do not believe it was the responsibility of the auditor to control his office. It was the responsibility of the administrative office since they brought forth the item.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Would somebody like to offer a motion?
That's going to cost us $30,000 more.
Yeah.
Okay,
You
nobody
go.
wants, dies for lack of a, wait.
I'll move the item, Mr. Chair.
There is courage in office.
Second.
There's a motion, a second. Those
Better have an office.
Yes, those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 4-0-1.
Thank you.
We now turn our attention to review of correspondence, reports, and various matters of concern. I'd like to start this time with Supervisor Triumph.
Couple items. Number one is there is a COG meeting tomorrow evening. Marita and I will be there. Secondly,
Tom, it starts at 6.
it starts at 6?
Yes, we have a closed session
Oh,
brought
Okay.
by you. So,
I guess I should have looked at the time. Okay.
just thought I'd say.
6, we're starting in a closed session.
Correct.
Okay. Secondly, I received a letter from Nancy Whittle. We'd had a conversation earlier, and I'm going to give it to, First County Council Bill. And she basically says, and I thought I'd just read it into the record. It says, for the last 30 to 35 years, the boards of supervisors have approved many parcel and subdivision maps and have rejected the offers of dedication appearing on the maps with the proviso, that said offers could be accepted by resolution at any time. The owners of the property have signed a statement on the map dedicating in perpetuity all easements and rights-of-ways that appear on the map. In talking with Bruce Childs, county surveyor, I believe he said something to the effect that because of some court actions, there is a possibility that these easements will be lost after a period of years. If this is the case, I would ask the board to survey those maps whose dedications may be running out and accept the easements and right-of-ways on behalf of the public. I haven't heard this from anybody else. I don't think Bruce has brought this to the attention of the board, has he?
Tom, no, he hasn't, but this goes back to the early mid-90s, and the reason I'm familiar with it is the Pine Drive scenario.
Right.
And there was a dedication of land, which is what brought me to you. And there was, I thought, a 25-year limit on that. That's what I understood at the time.
Even if it's
that
offered
it
in
had not
perpetuity?
been, well, I don't
Or
know
was
what
it offered for
perpetuity.
25
It
years?
was offered, period, not accepted. It had not been accepted.
Well, we need
So
a legal, I think,
I agree, we need to look at
interpretation.
that.
And if that is true, and and I don't know what the year period is, but if the year period council determines is 25 years, then anything 20 years to 25 years better get reviewed, and we better not lose them just for lack of attention if in fact we want to take action.
All right, what I would ask is...
Because you can always accept them and not put them in for a public, on behalf of the public, and not put them into the county maintained system.
Correct.
So we better know what we're doing here if in fact there is a deadline that
So
we're not
the
aware of.
fundamental concern is whether or not there is a sunset
Yes.
to these offers.
That's
Yes.
right, and if there is in any
When
of
is
them,
it?
we would like to know when
And
it
anything
is.
getting
and what
remotely
we do
close
to
to it
preserve
needs to
it.
be reviewed by the board, because it can always be accepted on behalf of the public, but not put into the county maintained system, and that way we basically still have control of the right-of-ways and the easements, et cetera. So you might hand that to Jim and see if we can get, probably Janice or somebody on our land use side would have a pretty good idea.
Does the board have any objection to asking staff to analyze the situation and come back with recommendations that would preserve the public interest in this?
That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Supervisor Thomas.
It looks like tomorrow I'll be attending the Calaveras Chamber Leadership class, and it's my understanding that we're going to be hanging by ropes, and there's probably a lot of people in this county that like to hang us by ropes, but anyway, it's a different activity, team building. Also I'd like to point out that the Visitors Bureau is having a function at the Murphy's Hotel on their spring series of visiting the bed and breakfasts and hotels of the region. I'll be attending the Mountain County Water Resources meeting. I think I've got it with a question mark here on Friday. Copperopolis Melodrama is being performed this weekend, Friday and Saturday night. So great time to come down and see some of the talented members of our fire department and their wives. It's always a good time. At this time, I would like to bring something to your attention that I've been getting an awful lot of communications on. That's what we're talking about, communications, right? Tom, you may remember back in 1991, there was a subdivision in Copperopolis called Connor Estates.
I certainly do remember that.
Yeah, okay, well, one of the issue here is that I have proposed that we spend that $70,000 in Prop 40 funds to developing that public access parcel that was created when that subdivision was entitled. And so we have this plan that shows some landscaping and parking and landscaping going down to the lake and a dock at the lake, so that we would be able to, after 17 years now, fulfill the mandate or the obligation that was created to this developer. And I'm getting just deluged with people who live, or emails from people who live in Connor Estates saying, you can't do that.
That was the point of it.
That was exactly the point of it, but I'm being bludgeoned by this implementing this plan that has been in place, and everybody's known about it for all this time.
And here you are attempting to share the bludgeoning? Is that?
Well, no.
Well stated.
I'm just, actually, I want to reveal a little prize that I got at the powwow that sort of brings all this into focus. And
criticism, there you go.
Okay, so this says, for every action, there is an equal and opposite criticism. So, I don't know,
although in some cases 17 years late, it's not quick or timely.
But I guess I'm just sort of verbalizing my frustration. I think that as a board member, I have an obligation to fulfill the expectations of past boards And when this maybe comes to your attention that Supervisor Thomas is doing a bad job down there, I just want a pre-explanation of
Well,
what's going on.
that was accepted by the board on behalf of the, or a requirement on behalf of the, I don't know if it was accepted, it's the proper word, but it was done on behalf of the public.
Yes.
And you know, it seems to me that at some point we have almost a moral obligation to see that through, either that or abandon the requirement. But
well, there are, I think it's probably, at least at this initial stage, there are more voices against the proposed park than maybe the word hasn't gotten out that there are people that are...
That just goes back to the reflection that, you know, when you do these things, you've got to do them at the time of development, because once they develop, and then, you know, you've got a whole block of voting citizens that come in and demand that it be taken out. And that's why it's so critical to do these, you know, I mean, to me, that's sort of part of the infrastructure of that development, and it wasn't completed. Probably should have been. Today, the requirement would be of the developer to do it.
They'd have to pay for it and maintain it for 5 years.
Out of unknown funds, but that's the way it was back then.
Okay, well, I feel very much like it should be my responsibility, particularly in view of the fact that last year we adopted the Parks and Recreation Commission, and we have some fairly aggressive ideas toward making a Parks and Recreation department in the future. And I mean, this is something that I want to do, and I just want to make sure that we don't have any...
We almost have an obligation, sort of, to do it. Okay. That was the condition of approval.
Okay, well, that concludes my comments.
If I might make a remark on this, I would compliment the supervisor from District 5. A lesser supervisor would have blamed those present in 1991 and moved the other direction. So it's an honorable position.
To do it today.
Yeah.
Yes, there you go.
I want all the credit.
There would be no bludgeoning at all, right?
Well,
thank you.
As a footnote to this, I did meet yesterday afternoon with one of the people that is complaining most loudly about this, that we can't burden their subdivision with this intrusion. And I met him over at the Lake Tulloch Resort, and he had came up with a fairly well-developed sketch and a grandiose development scheme where he wanted to burden that property owner with this park. He said, do it over here, not over there. So,
excellent. Well,
that's where it is.
Yep.
I personally want to express my gratitude for not representing that particular part of the county. Marita, do you have anything to report?
Yes. As Tom said, I'll be at the Council of Governments tomorrow. Wednesday morning, I will be in Tuolumne. Tuolumne County is sponsoring a green workshop, and all their departments, appropriate departments, will be there. Thursday, I will be in Sacramento for hopefully the awarding of a jail grant.
Is that Thursday?
And this Thursday. And on the 10th, Steve and I are both at Central Sierra Family Support in Jackson. And the kids fishing day, Russ was there early, I got there after he was really successful this year. It was wonderful. I mean, we had to kick people out. It was good. Did you get my phone message?
Thanks.
Okay, that's
all right, and let's see, today I have the Mental Health Advisory Board meeting at 4 o'clock at the clubhouse. I have, let's see, on Thursday, the Sierra Nevada Conservancy is having its final conference call on the revision of its grant application process. And I'm pleased to say that it appears that there's a more equitable approach, and that small counties or under-organized counties are going to get a better credit in the grant process, it appears. But that will be, recommendations will be finalized in that conference call and then brought to the Conservancy Board meeting, which will be taking place in Reading next month, or the month after. I'll also be at the JPA meeting with Marita in Jackson at 10 o'clock. And then on Monday, I have, there's the Economic Summit Preparation Committee that's meeting in Angels Camp at 8 o'clock that morning.
Oh, Madeline, on Monday.
The economic what?
The people who are planning the Economic Summit, it's the Chamber of Commerce and City of Angels, and I believe we are also co-sponsoring as a
I have
board.
Solid Waste Task Force Monday night.
What time and date was that?
That was 8 o'clock in the morning at the Aspen Architects.
On Sunday?
No, that's Monday.
Monday.
At their conference room.
Yep. And it'll be chaired by Diane Gray.
And speaking of chamber functions there, I forgot to mention that there is a chamber mixer to sort of kick off the fair activities on this coming Friday.
And where is that?
Fogateria, 5:30.
The fairgrounds.
Okay, that ends my, oh, I'm sorry, I had one other thing. I went to the Upper Macomb Watershed Authority meeting last Friday, and you may recall that we passed, and all the JPA members, organizations passed changes to their bylaws. There appears to be one small omission that they will be resubmitting to our board probably in 2 or 3 weeks. Just wanted you to have that heads up. Okay, from administration, any report?
Nothing new to report, sir.
County council and clerk. All right, this meeting then stands adjourned. We do have one closed session.